Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really look forward to this interview, and I know so many new teachers will as well.
Of course.
All right. My first question for you, Marissa, is what were your fears or challenges going into your first couple years of teaching, and how did you overcome those?
Well, I think first of all is looking at a curriculum and going, oh my gosh, I have so much to cover. And I think it was a little different. I started in kindergarten, and that was okay because everybody came in at like, they didn't know much, right? So, especially for French. But then when I moved to 2, 3, I was like, oh no, like teaching a split class, I have double the amount of work to do. And so I think one of the like my best tips for that would be like look at your two curriculum, figure out what overlaps, right? Like what can you kind of blend together so that you're not teaching two separate programs because nobody would expect you to be doing that. And look at what's important. Like even veteran teachers will tell you they never cover the whole thing, and it's okay. Just focus on the main things, and you'll find that day-to-day activities may hit on some of those little things that you don't have time for to explicitly teach. So, back off a little bit of the curriculum, focus on what the kids need, and that other stuff will kind of come along as you go.
Okay, thank you so much. Moving from that, can you share your specific strategy for a successful year teaching French immersion?
Yeah. So first of all, I'm a bit of an organization queen, like in life, but also in my classroom. And I'd say being organized with not only your planning and your lessons and whatever, but also your classroom as a space. We spend so much time in our classrooms as teachers. And so I think it's important to have a space that you feel good in, but also makes you feel calm. And I know for me, like if I'm in a space where I is like too much going on, I feel anxious and I'm not my best teacher, right? So if you can take the time, at the beginning of the year to make sure you lay out what you need to lay out and figure out, the organization of your room, that's going to help you a lot. The other thing is spend time on relationships and spend time on expectations because it's really hard to go backwards on that, right? Like if it's suddenly November and you're realizing, oh no, we'd never kind of work through those things, spend the time in September. That's kind of what it's for, right? Don't panic that you have to get into curriculum from day one, right? Spend a little time getting to know them and for you to be really clear about your routines, your expectations, because the more you practice those things, the easier it becomes. And then you have a better year overall, right?
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. Next, can you share three tips that may reduce stress and overwhelm when planning for the year as a French immersion teacher?
Yeah, so I kind of already mentioned the organization. Part of that is like make a year plan. Lots of schools, lots of principals don't require you to hand one in. If you do, great. I don't have to hand one in, and I don't necessarily stick to it, but it's a general view of where you're going. And every year, even if you teach the same grade every year, it will change. What took last year, addition took a month, now it takes a month and a half, and you have to be able to be flexible with that. The other thing is sort of plan your week for your planning. So I like to base mine around when I have preps, and I'll go, okay, today is my planning day. So during that prep, I will work on the actual like writing it out. What am I going to be teaching? All that kind of stuff. And then on the next day, my next prep, that's my copies day and all that kind of stuff, so that it's not just when I have a moment, it's like this is the day for that, that's the day for that, and it's way more efficient than sort of copying something here, printing, cutting something there, right? It's a little bit more structured. And then have somewhere to put your stuff for the next week. So I have like a Monday bin, Tuesday bin, that sort of thing. I've also done it in hanging file folders, though you can't put so much stuff in those. So that if you do have a book you're going to use next Wednesday, or you've printed something and you go, I want to save that for next week, you have somewhere to put it without just piling it somewhere, right? And then the other thing is just like think about how you want to communicate with parents. I'd say you're better to communicate more than you think. Um, and if parents don't want to read the email, they don't have to read the email. Or we use like a parent communication app thing. So how do you want to do that? Do you want to do a newsletter? Do you want to do like a weekly but this is what's happening. Here's your reminders. Think about how you want to go about that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. Those are really valuable tips. On the flip side of that now, could you share three things that new teachers should stop doing in order to be successful?
Oh, there's more than three. First of all, stop staying till 5 or 6 or 7 p.m. September's different. I stay way too long in September because there's just so much to do. But after you get over the September, like busy, leave. Have a time and you need to be out by that time. And yeah, because that's just, it will eat up your life if you don't, right? Stop looking at your email after a certain time. It's really tempting and I'm bad and I have my email on my phone. But it's like after a certain time, you don't open it. I also know like on our parent communication app, we can set quiet hours so it won't notify me after a certain time. They can send all the messages they want, but I won't even see them until the next day when it's my, hours again, right? Because you do need a life, right? And then the other thing is talk to your colleagues. I'm so guilty of being like Miss Independent. I want to do it myself. And even if you don't want to directly collab with them, I'm not a big collab with my grade colleagues. We talk a lot, but we don't do a lot of the same stuff, and that's okay. But just talk to them, right? Especially if you're new to the school, you're a new teacher. They're going to help you with ideas. You're going to give them ideas. So don't be afraid to kind of share with them. And honestly, like getting to know your colleagues is it's important to debrief with them, right? So don't feel like you have to do it all by yourself.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much. I know I'm sure a lot of new teachers can resonate with that as well. So
Yeah, you have that fear of like, I don't want to look like I don't know what I'm doing, right? So you don't want to ask, or like, I didn't even know it's like, where's the art room? Where's the whatever? You don't know, like just ask.
just ask. Awesome. Yeah, that's fantastic advice. My next question for you is, what is your morning and or after school routine that you have found works for you and has set you up for success?
So I know some people they like to have more time in the morning and then leave. I'm not so much with that. I only get to school about like 30-ish minutes before the bell rings, because I prefer to spend my time after school. So my morning is quite short. I mean, first thing would be like set out my morning task in its designated spot. So my kids know that like their morning thing they have to work on is always at the rainbow table. And I don't set it out the night before just because I want that table to get wiped down by the custodian. So I go and put the tub out and, that sort of stuff. I go over the day plan, like, is there anything that I've missed? Oh, shoot, I needed paper. I'm like running down to the art room to get paper for later in the day or something. Check those emails that you were ignoring the night before. Catch up with colleagues. Like, you don't have to go and shut yourself into your room. I'm quite social in the morning and that's totally fine. And then after school, so first thing is change the date on the board. I have like a shape of the day, they're magnets that stick on my board. Change that right away. And because if you don't, the kids will go, Madame, we don't have that today. You're like, oh, that's yesterday's, sorry. Do any marking? I mean, depending on your grade, you're going to have more or less, but I like to stay on top of it as much as I can. Ensure I have everything ready for the next day so that in the morning I'm not rushing around other than that like last minute thing. I am a person who I cannot leave my desk with stuff on it,
Yeah, me
right?
neither.
Like clear the desk, put it away. There is a place that a pile can happen if there needs to be a pile, but it is not on the desk, right? It feels so much fresher to leave it and then to be able to come in the next day. And it's like coming home to a clean house after you've been away, right? And then the other thing is, I'm social in the morning, but I also find that I talk to my colleagues more after school. And like I mentioned before, that was a really good time to debrief with them. And you go and you shut the door and you just want to yell or, cry or whatever you're going to do, or tell them about something amazing. So like that would be a great time to connect with your colleagues.
Awesome. Thank you so much. My next question for you is, what is one thing that you know now where you are in your career that you wish you knew starting off?
I think specifically for French is that teaching French is an entirely different ballgame. I teach at a dual track school, so we have English and French immersion. And I think it's really easy to look and compare and go like, oh, the grade twos in English are doing that. Or, you're looking online and you found some great activity, and then you think, go like, you can't do the same things with them because the vocabulary level is not the same. And just be okay with that, right? Like, you have to find different ways of going about things. And it doesn't mean that those kids are less skilled or that you're not a good enough teacher because you haven't achieved this level that the, English equivalent is at. It's not going to happen. So I think just give yourself permission to meet the kids where they're at. And I think that's true more than ever, especially coming, these post-pandemic years. Teaching is different than it was before, right? The students are different, and the, socialization that they're having is different, and their academics, like, all that is so different. So I think go to them instead of, in your head having this perfect idea of what's going to happen, because it probably won't. Like, teaching doesn't go the way you want.
Yes, we have heard that before. Okay.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. My second to last question is, what is one thing that new French teachers can do right now, can do today, that will help them when they get to teaching?
Yeah. So one of the things is, how do you want to do things? And I mean, like reading, like math, because there's so many different ways of going about it. Like, if you look at the literacy end of things, are you interested in daily five? Are you interested in more structured lessons? Are you going to do centers? Are you going to do, like, there's so many different ways, and they all have their pros and cons. And what works for you doesn't necessarily work for the next person. I don't do guided reading. I never have. It doesn't work for me. So I have a different system. And so you can't plan your schedule yet, because you usually need, your prep schedule and your other stuff. But you can kind of think, in the morning, I'll do literacy like that. We'll flow from this to this. I would like to do math after recess. Kind of plan out your week-ish and how you want to run those things, right? Like, do you want to do small group? Do you want to do big group? Do you want to do whatever? So that you can kind of have an idea when you go in, but it's also okay to change it. I've changed my systems a million times, and I changed them midway through the school year. And I'm like, all right, guys, we're changing it up. We're doing it this way now. And they will adapt, right? They're so willing to adapt with you. So just go in and try. And if it doesn't work, it's okay. But do a little bit of research now. If there are those buzzword type things like guided reading and small group and daily five, and you're not really sure what that means, do a little research. There are so many blogs, so many posts, like, so much to learn about them. So if you take a little time now to see, like, to understand them a little bit better, then when it comes time to make your schedule, you'll be a bit more informed about what you want to do.
Awesome. Thank you. That is really helpful. My very last question for you is, who was or is your mentor or inspiration?
Well, first of all, I'm the child of a teacher. And so I think that kind of, I spent my whole life and like, having teachers around or whatever. So I definitely have my mom. She teaches English though. So like I said, it is a different ball game. But I also think, like, my colleagues, I said, I'm not a big collab person, but I've learned so much from them. Whether they're new, whether they're veterans, whether they're, everybody in between, they all have different things, especially people that have taught in different areas, right? Like, I'm in BC, but I have colleagues who've taught in Alberta and Manitoba and Ontario, and everybody brings something different because, each school system is different, right? So you can learn so much from them. And also, honestly, like, it sounds a bit cheesy and cliche, but the online community, like, I've been a part of the online teacher Instagram community for a while, and I've connected with so many people. And same thing with, colleagues that have worked in different areas, getting connected to teachers who work in different areas and teach different things and teach different ways. And, somebody's loves outdoor ed and you go, I want to learn from you. There's so many people out there that can teach you so many things. You just have to, go looking for them.
Yeah, there we go. Fantastic. Thank you so much. I
You
really
bet.
appreciate you joining me today. And I know so many new French teachers are going to really benefit from the valuable information you shared. So thank
Yeah.
you.
You're welcome.